Welcome to episode 92 of Stageworthy. I'm your host, Phil Rickaby. Stageworthy features conversations with Canadian theatre makers, from actor to director to playwright and more. If you're listening for the first time and you like what you hear, I would love it if you would subscribe to the podcast. You can find Stageworthy on Apple Podcasts and Google Music or wherever you get your podcasts. And whether you're a new listener or you've been listening for a while, please consider leaving a comment or rating. Your ratings and comments help new people find the show. And if you want to drop me a line, I would love to hear from you. You can find Stageworthy on Facebook and Twitter at StageworthyPod, and you can find the website at StageworthyPodcast.com. My guest is Toronto designer Nina Okens. Nina joined me to talk about the art of creating surtitles for theatre.
I know it is that, it helps people to understand what's happening in operas.
Yeah.
That's how I understand surtitling.
Yeah.
Is that basically correct?
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Okay.
And it's not any different in theatre, except for maybe the pace is faster, because opera is stretched out.
Yeah.
Whereas in theatre, you've got, rapid fire and
Uh-huh.
stuff. So I think maybe in opera, there's more latitude to be... do you want to say this for the podcast, or are we recording?
No, we are recording, so...
Great. In opera, because, there's a lot of repetition, not all of it is slow, but generally, it's the song lyric, so you can do the translation in its entirety. But in theatre, because of the speed, you often have to edit.
Okay. Oh,
Yeah.
Do you have to, not literally have the surtitle literal?
Well, because in theatre, as I understand it, the people who come to see a show that in a language that they don't understand,
Right.
play, still want to see the show, not crane their neck at a screen and read surtitles.
No, that's very true.
So essentially what you want to do is give them enough that they understand, but then can cast their eye down and watch the action.
Okay. Huh. Okay. Yes.
So but at the same time, you, as a translator, as a craftsperson, you an artist, you want to give them the most true translation that you can, preserving the nuances, the poetry of what the playwright has given.
Right.
Because no two playwrights write the same.
Of course.
And, sometimes there's rhymes and alliteration, and so you try to capture as much of that as you can. But there are, a couple of rules, names, Nina or Rick. You wouldn't translate them. You would leave them out altogether of the sentence as much as possible. So if the sentence was Rick, come get dinner, you would just write come get dinner. Because people are still, it's not like they're reading the translation and not hearing it. They hear the Rick.
Right.
You don't need to hear Rick in a different language.
Right.
So you just need to understand the rest. So there's things like that. You'll do anything that's you can contract. So if it's you have not done this, have not becomes haven't.
Right.
All of those, even if they're not, unless they're really important in the script, you shorten all of that.
So are you translating?
Sometimes.
Okay.
Molière has already been translated
Yes.
into English.
Yeah.
So often, and sometimes very badly, and sometimes very well.
Yes.
So you take into account existing translations. If the play is being performed in a modern setting, sometimes you will tweak the language so that it's not so old-timey, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Sometimes it's a brand new play and no English translation exists. And so you are essentially the first one to do that. And there's always this desire, I think, in me anyways, to do the most beautiful literal translation as possible. But when you're surtitling, you're going... the way we do it, and I'm sure there's many different ways to surtitle in different computer programs, we we annotate a text, and then we create a PowerPoint presentation.
Right.
So each slide is a chunk of text. So instead of doing a translation and then working it into a PowerPoint, we do directly into a PowerPoint. So we're immediately kind of doing all the editing and the crunching. So a surtitled script can't really be a full literal translation. So it's a different, because then you have to re-expand. It's like adding water to it to cook it.
When you are, you said we, and when you say we, yes. Who is we?
We, okay. So I've only been surtitling 2.5 or 3 years now, and I learned from Gunther Dreifelds, who still surtitles for the opera and used to do all the surtitling for Théâtre Français de Toronto. And she's slowly retiring. She's has the luxury of wanting more time to do other things. So when she knew she was going to be leaving Théâtre Français, she knew that I was interested, and Melanie Hall, who has been stage managing for Théâtre Français, was also interested. And one of the actors at Théâtre Français, Christopher Webb, also has a background in translation or had studied translation. So the three of us kind of formed a team, and Gunther trained us. And then the following season, we each did 2 shows of the 6-show season. Okay. And then we also kind of proofread each other's stuff, and we bounce ideas off of each other, and because it's not only the creation of the PowerPoint and the translation, but someone has to be there on the day of the performance operating the search.
Oh, so you not only like make the slides, you run it as well.
Yeah, so you have to sit in on rehearsals, make sure the timing, because that's the other half is the technical standpoint. One thing is coming up with the words, but you want to make sure that that you're not giving away any punchlines. Sometimes you have to kind of split something into 2 slides because it just timing doesn't work. And then the other half is like it's a duet with the performers of pressing go at the right time so that the right slide shows up. And then what if they reverse a couple of lines or forget some text? And so you have to kind of be ready to improvise or kind of scoot forward or just kind of hold and to see where they land.
What do you do if they skip a line? Are you able to skip ahead, or do you?
Yeah, you generally just skip ahead. The irony is that the people who are watching the show who don't speak French,
they won't know. No, of course, yeah.
Obviously, they'll know if you all of a sudden are like zipping through some slides before they can read it.
Yeah.
I mean, and sometimes they like skip full scenes ahead. Like it's it's never happened to me, and Melanie Hall has been operating most of the surtitling because of just the schedule, and she's more at ease in the booth doing that stuff. My background's in design, so usually by opening night, I walk away. So I'm still always a little bit kind of on edge. It's actually a lot of fun once you get past the nerves of it. I imagine it's much like performing. The kind of like, okay. Oh, he's going to pause. Like, I'm going to just, because you kind of want to release the slide on the second syllable or like the second word of the sentence. Right. So it's just like, it's just a feel that you need to have. So anyway, so there was 3, now there are 2. Christopher has been very busy with his acting career, and so he's out of the game. So now it's Melanie and myself. And then I picked up contracts with Théâtre Nouvelle Ontario, which is the French theatre company in Sudbury. Right. Yeah, so I do their entire season. Huh. Yeah.
You mentioned that you come from a design background, and that's mostly costume?
Yeah, costume design. Yeah.
So, what is it that drew you to design? So, because you have 2 things that are basically design-based. You have costume design, you have surtitle design.
Exactly,
So, how did you come to theater?
To theater, I saw Les Mis when I was 13 and was like, that's what I'm doing with my life. But how I got into surtitling is, I had the benefit of growing up trilingual. So I've always kind of been translating or witnessing translations. Because I don't think I have had to translate anything, but, I think it's ironic because English is actually my 3rd language, but it's the language I'm most comfortable in. And so when I often read something in French, my brain is then transposing it into English, or how I would say that in English, or same with German. So I've always, and I love finding bad translations. I used to work for a toy company, and they made radio-controlled airplanes and helicopters, and one of them was our basic model, and it was easy to fly.
Right.
And then in French, underneath it said facile à voler, which, they failed to take into account that voler can also mean steal in French. And the way they had worded it was that this plane was easy to steal. So, I've always loved how, there's just these little intricacies to it. So I've always watched Gunther's work, whenever I was in the audience watching my, tired of watching my design on stage, I would glance up and watch Gunther's design on the screen, and was always like, I could do that. And I was kind of thrilled to kind of find something that I could help or tweak or nuance, which is kind of a bratty thing to do because it wasn't my job. But and she's a seasoned professional. She's probably the person in Canada who's done the most surtitles. But with the French language, it's just nuances. So so when the opportunity came up, I was like, yeah, I absolutely want to do that. And in many ways, I've been designing costumes for 20 years, and I still do it. But there's the designing surtitles or translating is as exciting to me, or maybe more. It's like what designing is still very interesting to me, but there's like an excitement to coming home being like, I'm going to do 5 pages. I'm going to translate 5 pages tonight, and then 15 pages later, I'm like, I'm just going to do 2 more. This is too much fun. So it's like the great big puzzle of finding the right word, spacing, and then being like, oh, that word has too many syllables. I can't fit it all on one slide. I need to find something that's shorter but still has the same impact, and and then figuring out how to pace it and running it is just, it's really exciting to me.
So there's a lot of nuance to it. It sounds like
there is a lot of nuance to it, because sometimes the best word isn't the best spatially on the slide. Sometimes you have to choose between, sometimes there's like 3 adjectives to describe something, and that the playwright has like chosen those 3 words with care, but your slide can only hold 2 words. And then you have to be like, which one of these has to go, and which one's the most important? What would the playwright think? And, and sometimes the playwright's alive and you can actually ask them, which is great. And sometimes the playwright is, not, alive, like Moliere. So you kind of just have to give it your best and hope for the best.
When you're asking a playwright, if you can, if there's 3 words, I can only fit 2. Which words would you choose? Do they ever get like, you can't cut a 3rd word from my surtitles? Do they ever get a little? No. I guess I haven't asked that many playwrights, but I've never. It's always been very collaborative, and more often than not, it's like. I get a script, and then sometimes if it's a show that's already been produced and is being brought to Théâtre Français or TNO, I get an archival video, and I'll read the script, and then I'll watch the video, and then I'll read the script of the video and realize that there's some large discrepancies. And then I'm like, okay, well, sometimes that happens. Shows do evolve, and that's just part of it. And they're like, oh, yeah, we kind of improvise that scene every night, but, what's in the script is the gist of it, so just leave it as is. I don't think there's, I think the surtitling of opera has been around for a very long time. Yeah. The surtitling of theater is a relatively new and emerging art form, and just like we don't operate with any kind of software that's specific to it, and everything is kind of like handwritten in the script and then scanned, and then and we use PowerPoint. It's maybe it's just like how projection art was considered 10 years ago as this like new and emerging thing. Well, it's interesting because when I think about surtitling, I don't think of it in theater. I think of it in opera,
right?
And of course, it makes sense for theater. It makes sense for theater that is not in English, but people who maybe don't speak the language might come.
And I guess it just never occurred to me that it was something that was being done. Because, when I see a show that's, at the French Theatre, I think, I don't speak French, so there's no way that I could go to that.
Right.
And I think a lot of people don't know
exactly
that there's surtitling involved.
Yeah, well, it certainly was the case when we started. And I think we've been surtitling maybe 7, 8, maybe even 10 years now at TFT. And we would do maybe 3 performances out of 20 with surtitles.
Okay.
Usually like a preview and a pay what you can, or maybe both pay what you can. And they would always sell out. And so we keep adding more and more and more of them. And it's really interesting because in opera the surtitles are always like above the stage or on either side of the stage, and the battle is always how do you make sure that the English surtitles don't disturb the people who don't need them. Right.
Yeah.
And I've heard that there's this new technology where audience members can get eyeglasses where the surtitles are then projected on the lens.
I think it's similar to if you go to movies, they have that technology for the deaf. So it's called rear window projection.
Right. Yeah. Very cool. A little out of our budget right now at Théâtre Français.
Yeah.
PowerPoint projector is, right in our budget level. But, it's very interesting. I did a show. I designed costumes for a show last year for Cahoots theater company called Ultrasound, which was written by a deaf playwright and performed by 2 deaf actors.
Right.
And it had surtitling because one of the actors only signed.
Right.
So, and then the other actress spoke with a deaf accent and also signed at some point. So we had interpreters on stage, but we also had Trevor Schwellnus was the set and surtitle designer, which was great. So the entire set was built so that it could take projections, and the surtitles would be projected wherever the actor was in the room.
Oh, that's brilliant!
And not only that, but one of my favorite things about it, and I think it's just so brilliant, is at one point the couple is having an argument, and as the argument becomes more heated, the surtitles started to rise above each other to kind of denote that it was escalating. So it would move up the set, and it's just that's so genius to me. And it made me think are there other ways that we can integrate instead of trying to separate the surtitles, are there shows that we can create that can integrate them right into it, so that it's the point of the show is to make it as multilingual and accessible as possible.
Because there's something beautiful about integrating the surtitling into the set itself.
Yeah,
where it's just part of the show rather than a projection.
Exactly, it's not separate. It's and obviously you have to take into account who your audience is and what they need, and why is it important? Why would it be important for a French native speaker to see the English words? Why do they need to see it? I mean, one of the other shows that I didn't surtitle, Melanie did last year, had was partly in French, partly in English, and partly in Cree. And then the year before that, we did a show that had French and Haitian in it, Haitian Creole. And so, how did you nuance all these different languages into it was.
What do you what do you do in that instance?
Well, we just you use italics. It's about the spacing, and then some of it you just some of the music and the song lyrics that were in Haitian, you knew that the French people also wouldn't necessarily understand them, so you kind of left them as is, or you surtitled them into French and English, so that both the French and the English would understand. Yeah, it's like a giant Rubik's cube. You want once you get one side kind of figured out, you're like, oh shoot, the other side's okay, I got to tweak that side and then come back to it. But it's really quite. I quite love it.
It sounds like in order to really get into it, there has to be a certain passion for words.
Yes, and wordplay and idioms.
Yeah.
Because some idioms just don't translate.
No.
And you have to kind of... I'm doing a show... can I swear on this podcast?
Oh, yeah, fuck yeah.
Oh, fuck, all right.
Yeah.
I'm translating a show right now that will be both at Théâtre Français and TNO this year called Fucking Carl.
Mm-hmm.
And it is filled with swear words. And I don't know if you know this, but French swear with religious words, and the English just use fuck, basically.
Yes, yeah.
and so trying to be as colorful as the French is often, I'm like, I'm just so bored of just using fuck this, fuck that. I need more words.
Yeah.
And which is funny because English has more words than many other languages, but I guess when it comes to swearing, the French have got us beat.
Well, they certainly have come with some more entertaining and nuanced ways to swear, and the English just go straight for it.
Straight to the point.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and there's a lot of joie in it, a lot of idioms, a lot of phrases. I'm like, I'm trying to think of the example of it. One of the characters who is lower class was referring to someone being constipated, but in French, it was something to the effect of being tight, and I can't even remember how we translated it. It was like I had to go online. Like I always have like a thesaurus, open, kind of the Google Translate tab open, but then you have to get like the urban dictionary of sayings, and like I'm like just going through them, like which was the turd blocked. Yes, that's the one. Like words that I never even occred to me that was the same. I'm like, but yes, that's perfect.
Yeah,
because you have to also put yourself into like the mindset of the characters and what did they speak growing up? And only the French of Tremblay is very different than the French of Molière. And,
right.
And then I think I remember when I saw when I worked on a Tremblay for the very first time, which was the first time I'd seen a Tremblay play. I was like, oh my goodness, this is my family. There's a bit of recognition there.
Okay.
I was like, okay, I know who these people are. And so I get what they take. But yeah, I think I also just read a lot growing up, right, in all three languages, or actually at least in French and in English. I did a lot of reading, so I just developed an aptitude for vocabulary.
Did you grow up in Quebec or Ontario?
No, I grew up in Ontario, but my entire elementary schooling was in French.
Okay.
And then high school was it was like full immersion in elementary, and then partial in high school. And then I really didn't speak it much from senior high school through till I was maybe 22, and when I started working with Théâtre Français, and that's where I had a renaissance of French, because all of a sudden I was had to work in French.
Yeah.
And now I pretty much all of my work is done in French, and my mom will say, I think you speak better French than I do now.
Is that's just because now you're using it more than she is?
And I think I've had access to a wider range of vocabulary. My mom grew up in northern Quebec, working class family, intelligent. If she didn't finish high school or anything, this is a long time ago. But I've had the benefit of working in French and having access to business French, I guess, to a certain extent, and so my vocabulary has expanded. And every once in a while, I'll use an expression or a word, and she'll be like, "I didn't teach you that," and it's a good thing. So words have always fascinated me, and I studied Latin in high school, and so the origins of where do words come from, and how do they travel, and I have friends who are Arabic, and I've made a lot of Arabic friends in the last couple of years, and so I'm realizing how much French there is in Arabic as well, and so it's really fascinating.
It's not theater related, but why is there so much French in Arabic?
Because the French colonized parts of Syria, and the borders have all shifted so much because of the 2 world wars and whatnot. But the French were colonizers, the English were colonizers, the Germans colonized. All comes down to colonization. We've taken over, and then been reclaimed. So it's interesting when I speak to my Syrian friends now, and they're because I work in settlement a little bit too, so I'm always trying to figure out what they need, and so they'll be like, I don't know what the word for this is, and I'm like, just say it in Arabic. They're like, Seshwa. I'm like, oh, Seshwa, a hairdryer. I'm like, I know a bicycle and bicyclette. I'm like, same thing. Yeah. So it's always surprising which words kind of were kept. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, we've been talking a lot about surtitling, and I do want to, because that was our entire reason for sitting down. But I do want to talk about your costume design. Mm-hmm. You sort of said, I saw Les Mis and decided that's what I wanted to do.
Yes, essentially.
Was it the costumes or was it?
No, I didn't even really. It was a half-baked idea. I saw it and went, that's the kind of storytelling. Like, I want to be part of that experience. And, I was 13. I was in I just finished grade 8. Right. So I was going into high school. So going into high school, I was like, okay, drama. And I've never really done much theater. I think I went to, a performing arts camp or something. And it wasn't until grade 9 until I, was part of, a drama production that I realized that there were, there's a set.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, of course.
There's costumes, there's the lighting, and that's when I kind of went, yes, I want to be backstage. I want to help tell the story. I do not want to be on stage.
Was there anything that made you realize that you didn't want to be on stage, or did you know it instinctually?
Oh, I just the gut churning, vomitous feeling of I do not want to be looked at by that many people and have to put myself. And I was in a couple of shows. Mm-hmm. I was probably quite terrible. I never felt confident in it. Whereas with the backstage, I'm like, I felt home. I felt like that's what I was meant to do. There was never a question. And from grade 9 on, I'm like, this is what I'm doing. This is what I'm doing. My parents are like, you sure you don't want to be an accountant? Stupid that. I'm like, no, I'm not taking science past grade 10 because I don't need that for theater. And in my mind, I was going to go to Ryerson. I thought I was going to go to Ryerson all the way till I went to my interview at Ryerson. And then I went, I don't want to go to Ryerson.
What school did you end up going to?
I went to Sheridan, which was not even on my radar. I applied to, Ryerson, Brock, Sheridan, and Waterloo. I think those were my 4. Oh, and Humber. And went to all the interviews. And Ryerson just left me with such a bad taste in my mouth. And now it's a great school now, and some wonderful grads, great teachers. But at the time, it felt very. I got a sense that they were like, "It's a very difficult program. There's no way you will pass everything." So you're gonna fail, is what they were saying.
That's a terrible way to get people to go to your school.
Well, you think, right?
Yeah.
But, which was heartbreaking for me because I 5 years of high school being like, I'm gonna go to Ryerson. And so I went to Sheridan and knew nothing about it. And it's a musical theater program with a tech program. And they were like, yeah, it's a really hard program. We're here to support you, though. We'll do everything we can to, And once again, I felt like I was home. So, and it was, and it was only a 2-year program against a 4-year program. So obviously I didn't learn as much as I would have if I'd gone to university. Right. But what it did was prepared me, basically it launched me into the real world 2 years earlier. To get real world experience. And the teachers were so great, they kind of just, they taught you how to learn.
Right.
Because that's essentially what theater is. You're not doing the same thing over and over again.
No, it's true.
Right?
Yeah.
So every show is going to present you with a new challenge. So school needs to prepare you on how to examine those challenges and approach them and give you the basic toolkit.
Yeah. Now, you were saying that you spent most of your high school life thinking you were going to go to Ryerson. What was it that made you think that Ryerson was the place to be?
Well, this is pre-internet, right? Mm-hmm. So I guess I'm trying to figure out how I even learned. And there must have been a brochure in the guidance counselor's office, right?
Yeah.
And I remember having to kind of prod the guidance counselors on the existence of theater tech as a viable career.
They're not really good about theater in general. I think when people go to the guidance counselor and they say, I want to work in the arts, the guidance counselor is thinking how do I convince them not to do this? I'm completely unprepared to answer these questions, and I need to get them to go to accounting school or business school or something that I understand.
Yeah, it's weird, eh? And do you remember those like that? It must have been computerized, but it was like this punch out. Like job determination quiz. Right?
When I took it in school, it wasn't like computer. They gave you a pin, and you actually had to like put a pin in the spot that you agreed, or like fill in or punch out the number of what you wanted to do.
Yeah, I remember getting this like accordioned printout with like I don't know how it was made, but I think one of the options was a horse trainer. Was one of my career paths.
It's funny. I got it. Told me that I should be like a secretary. It said that I should be like doing filing or archiving or things like that. I was like, I have no interest in that, so I don't know why you're even suggesting that.
Yeah,
because those aptitude tests, there's one question that they never seem to ask. Is like, what do you like? It asks questions about what you're good at, and that's what it's trying to tell you is what you're good at. But it never asks you, like, what would make you happy or what do you enjoy?
It's amazing to me. And I remember for, like, the first bit of my career feeling like, I'm the one taking all the risks in my career. And, like, I'm living on the edge of, and surely that is, as artists, we are... not making a lot of money.
Yeah.
And we all make sacrifices and have a plan B. And like I have a day job. It is in my field, but it's in television, and so it's not my first love, which is theater. We all do that, but I remember when the recession hit. In 2008 or whenever, and people that I knew who had gone to school. Done something sensible, gotten like an accounting job or whatever, had the same job for a long period of time, and all of a sudden found themselves unemployed because their company failed or whatever, and they didn't have the skills to survive because they'd only had one job and they didn't know how to do anything else, and they'd become complacent because they were so used to doing the same thing over and over again. Whereas I have no ego and. I had a contract where I painted all the garbage cans in the Yorkdale Mall once, like in their deep underground dungeons. So like I did that because I needed the money and hey, I got to do faux finish. Yeah. So, I remember that being the moment where I kind of went, oh no, I've got some pretty great survival skills. Yeah. And I get to do what I love.
Well, that really helps out a lot. Is being able to do what you love and like to at least incorporate it into your job. I think a lot of people when they fall into some kind of job that's outside of theater, when it's not like a theater focused job, because pardon me, when we do, a lot of us, we go into waiting tables, and that's the traditional like theater person job because evenings are free. But then we go and we get a day job. And it's like a job that we sort of fell into, and it just becomes something that we did because suddenly I start feeling like I want to have a roof over my head and I want to have some things.
Getting older.
Yes. Because when you're in your 20s, you're like, fuck, I'll sleep on a couch, I'll sleep on the floor, I'll sleep in an alley as long as I'm doing the art. And then when you're like 30, you're like, I want a bed and I want heat and I want food and
and I want good food.
Yeah, you're like, I don't want Mr. Noodles anymore.
Exactly. I want my Greek yogurt.
And it's funny because
I don't want Greek yogurt.
No, but it's funny because there's the job that you fall into, and then often we end up not particularly enjoying that job.
Well,
right?
it's because as far as day jobs go, I can't even call it a day job anymore. It's actually a career. Like I work in it, for a television company, a media group, I guess now because it includes the internet. I create content. I am designing costumes for children's television, and it's not at all what I thought I would be doing.
Right.
And it's children's television, so it's not like highly intellectual, but it's fun.
Yeah.
And now, this year we launched our green screen studio. So the majority of the content that I'm creating is to be used in the studio with no sets in it, and has its whole host of new challenges that, you know, we were the first studio in North America, I think, maybe the world, to use this particular computer system, and I don't. It's you know, what goes on in the console room to me is like, might as well be Gandalf and like a whole bunch of wizards, Harry Potters in there waving wands. They're incredible what they do, and so to kind of try to figure out like how what I create in 3D manifests once it goes through like a camera and a gaming engine and the computer, and then ends up on your TV screen or your computer screen, which is two different things. And like, it's amazing how like a color, like I've got an object that's like, you know, purple, right, and then I put it, you know, in the studio in front of a camera, and on the monitor it looks like more of a royal blue, right, but then once it's gone through the processing, because we put everything into a 3D, it's kind of like a 3D VR gaming engine. Right. Like we literally have, like, the camera, one of the virtual cameraman, because he's real, but the camera's virtual, uses a literal joystick to navigate the universe that these actors are acting in a green room somewhere. Anyways, so once the purple/blue fabric goes through that, sometimes it looks more fuchsia, and then you don't even like, and then it's going to look completely different on the screen. So it's really makes the work.
How do you design for that? How do you design when the color that you're designing does not end up being the color that people see?
Well, it's interesting because it used to be that, you know, you got your script, you know, the set props design, like there was an existing set, or there was a modification, so the set person would go off and do that and get the props, and we'd all show up back at the place with all of our things. But now I have to wait for the virtual sets to be completed before I can go and source fabrics that then get, or if I'm lucky, an actual, like, you know, pair of pants, and then you have to do a screen test with the fabric in every set that costume will appear in. So the scripts will have to all be written, right, so that you know where this costume is going to travel. And then what else is interesting is that fabric or that item, it might test well from the waist up, but not from the waist down. So because we have a green screen floor as well, and the green is, and the light is, you know, it's like chroma green, right? It's like the most fluorescent green you can imagine, and it's very, very brightly lit because you have to get rid of every single shadow, right? So if the fabric has a slight crease in it or fold, and it's close to the green screen floor, that the green will bounce onto that fabric, and then that bit of the costume disappears.
You know, one of the things that I've always thought about in terms of like that green screen experience, and it's one of those things that nobody's ever teaching in like theater school or anything, is how to act with a green screen and how not to squint because the lights are so bright. How do you even do that?
Well, luckily I don't spend a lot of time in the studio. Once we have someone else who works on set, but it is very difficult for the actors, and they often, you know, at the end of the day, their eyes are a little. I'll bet. And same for the cameraman, the crew, everyone who works in that space is like, it's a long, monotonous day, and it's, you know, there's a program that, you know, will project the set, and they can see the set on a giant monitor, so they're acting and they can see themselves on the monitor. But everything is like left to right, right to left. So what's left is right. So you have to kind of
think real hard,
that. And then say there's a wall on the set that you could, you know, you have to know where you can walk behind, or where you need, like, where on the floor you will walk, and then all of a sudden you'll be like knee deep in the set. Like, so there's like definitely like paths and spike marks that need to be made, and it's I think as an actor, like, it's difficult because also you have no. As an actor, you feed off of your environment. Yeah. And so if your environment is a big green box, I don't know how you get much nutrition out of it.
Again, that's one of those things that nobody teaches you how to do, is how to do, and nobody's teaching you how to do motion capture. So these are all the things that are, you know, becoming important, but we're not.
Exactly. And you know, and I think in large part, you know, green screen shooting has been relegated to special effects and weathermen or women. So they're it's the stunt people doing stuff. But now we're doing
most TV shows have a green screen element at some point, so it's becoming more and more.
Like in the back of cars, you got or out a window.
So it's not a stunt and it's not a special effect anymore. It's the everyday.
It's the everyday, and we're shooting entire episodes, like where everything is, and the props have to be tested, everything has to be tested. There's a learning curve. Like we've just shot, we're almost done shooting a series that had 40 episodes. And we were supposed to start shooting our second series in June, but now it's been pushed because of all these logistical issues. It's been pushed to January, and we've got puppets and giant mascot-y beasts, and then we still get scripts that call for props, there's a whole song about lettuce, and okay, well, what color is lettuce?
That's a problem. How do you do lettuce when you're working on a green screen?
Right. Well, and so you have to kind of also educate the writers.
Yes. Right.
On, what the limitations are, or even what the limitations of, a puppet can't lift heavy things. It's a puppet. So, you've got script writers who are, letting their imagination run wild and creating things, but they've never written for green screens. So, once again, there's a little bit of back and forth there in terms of okay, well, how can we adapt this to keep the intent but make it not look terrible? Yeah.
So, in terms of back to the theater, when did you join Théâtre Français?
It was 1997, and I graduated from college in 96. So I think there was almost a full year, and they were doing a production of Le Malade Imaginaire, the Imaginary Invalid, and I was hired to do props. Teresa Shabilsky was designing, and she won a Dora Award for her design. It was brilliant. It was set in a circus, and it was the last show that Diana LeBlanc did, or she didn't direct it, but she was the artistic director. Right. And her tenure was over then, and Guy Mignot stepped in afterwards, and Guy Mignot has been there until last spring. So it's been 20 years, pretty much. Or it was 19. 20 years next year.
Yeah. So was that your first design job?
It wasn't even. No, I wasn't even designing.
You
just doing props.
Were doing props. Yeah.
It was my first professional gig, though. It wasn't an indie theater working for experience, not paid. So that was and God, they're amazing people there. I think my first design gig with them came 2 years later, maybe more than that. I did one small show, and then Guy asked me to do the entire season the following year, which is when I think about it now, I think, was he insane? I designed 3 shows, and their whole, they're 3 in-house productions, not their whole season, because they bring in touring shows, but 3 shows I got to design, and ever since then I've designed at least 1, if not 2 shows a year, and that's, it blows my mind that I got that opportunity.
So you started doing props, and then you moved. Did you move the following year into costume, or did you?
No, not with them. Did props. They had a head of wardrobe named Joanne Massingham for many years, and I didn't start designing for them until after she left. And I think the reason I was hired was because I had practical experience. I was not only able to design, but I was able to make my own costumes or create, which a lot of the designers that they had been working with were, I guess, higher end designers who were beyond wanting to do their own work, which I totally understand. So someone who's been designing for 20 years, you get to a point where you're I'm going to hire someone else to do this bit. I'm going to do the fun bit. So I think part of the appeal, and I think that's how I got into design. When I left Sheridan, I was not a designer. It's not a design program. I thought I was going to be a seamstress. Right. And so I came to Toronto ready to be a seamstress, and I couldn't get any work. I got some work as an assistant stage manager, and then I did I worked at Theatric's Costume House for 6 months, and then I designed a show, a little indie show called Bloody Poetry, And then my props teacher gave my name to the production manager at the Stratford Festival, who was hiring an apprentice scenic artist. And I was like, sure, I'll do that. Yeah. And I went and I painted for 3 months in Stratford and had this life-changing experience. I thought, this is amazing. I love this. I'm going to be a scenic artist. And then I came back to Toronto and couldn't get any scenic artwork and started assisting designers. And I think, I was a good assistant because I could paint, I could do props, I could do costumes, and I was, cheerful and perky and never said no, which is, what you want in a volunteer. You want someone to show up and do the work, right?
Yeah.
So, and then eventually designers started to kind of be like, oh, I don't want to do this design gig, hire Nina, she'll work for next to free. And then I worked my way up from there. And I think, so I had a couple of shows under my belt when TFT, did the offering, but, yeah.
So when they asked you to design their 3 shows for them, was that your first major project? Yeah.
Well, so, TFT is still my, maybe not biggest in volume, but in terms of prestige.
Yeah. So they kind of took a chance on you there.
They totally, totally. That I think is Guy's legacy at TFT is he took chances on so many young artists who've. And I think it's paid off. We've, we're all still working in the business and created kind of a bit of a family. So that's pretty fantastic.
That's great.
But I don't know if I would have had the longevity of career that I've had or the, comfort or success if it hadn't been for them.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you, right now, and so are you still designing costume for them? Mm-hmm. And you're doing the subtitles as well?
Yeah.
Do you still want to keep doing both, or do you want to sort of go more towards the subtitling? Do you?
You know what? It's a tough question. As I get older, and as the arthritis sets in, and working in theater is no joke physically. It's tough on the body because there's a lot of schlepping, especially if you live in Toronto and don't have a car.
Yeah.
So. What I love about subtitling is that I can do it anywhere.
Right.
As long as I've got my computer and maybe a Wi-Fi connection every once in a while.
Right.
I can just sit down and do it. It's a way less toll on the body. And so I am kind of looking at growing that side of my business to be able to do that into my later years. Because as you know, as an artist, retirement is kind of a joke, right?
Yeah, it's not like it's
there's
really
nothing
an option.
For sure.
Yeah.
And I think that's true of pretty much any career right now. Is retirement may not be an option, and so I need to have some. I don't know that. Astrid Jansen, Sean Kerwin, all these fantastic lady designers who are a decade. I'm not sure how old they are. Anyways, they're older than me, and I see them approaching those years, and they're still working at it, and I don't know if I'll be able to do that.
It's interesting because there's the idea that I've been thinking about it for as I get older. I think about that kind of thing. And it's the idea that retirement, as we understand it, and as our parents understood it, was supposed to be the reward for sticking with a shitty job for your life. So you went to work in the factory, and then when you finish working at the factory at the miserable job that you hated, you turn 60, and now here's time for you to relax in your later years. And I think that if you're a person who loves what you do, and it's sort of and that sustains you, it's less the reward for doing that. Because I know, there's lots of people who
it's like a living inheritance,
exactly,
right? You're using it all now.
Yeah. It's not like we're doing it, we hate the job.
Yeah.
And we're looking forward to when we turn 60 or 65 and somebody's going to give us a gold watch and we'll be able to relax or whatever. But that, for artists, I think the fact that we're working sustains more than anything else.
Well, it's like living to work or working to live, right? Yeah. I'm happy to keep doing what I'm doing as long as my body will allow me and my brain will allow me to do it.
Right.
I do feel I'm becoming a lot pickier with my theater projects because they are so taxing, and also because, I have a 40-hour a week job already. Right. And so any theater I take on top of that is taking me away from my downtime. Right. Which, we all need.
We all do need, yeah.
Right? So I've become... a year or two, was it last year? I set out guidelines for what kind of shows I would accept, and I failed at following them.
What did you? Was it because people came to you and were really passionate about the shows, or they were friends? What was it that made you?
They were friends.
Okay.
And because I had established relationships with them, in one case it was okay. So my guidelines were that I didn't want to work on a show unless there were equal amount of men and women in it, or involved in it, and that there was at least one person of color. Gosh, I don't get off of those shows very much, apparently. So the first show that I took was with was a show written by Mark Brownell and directed by Sue Minor. So directed by a woman, yay. With one more man than a woman in it. So I was like, oh, okay, yes. It was with the Pick of the Fringe, not the Pick of the Fringe. What's the one in January? With the
yeah.
You know the one.
I know the one, and of course, as soon as we finish, I'm going to remember what it is. It's I thought Frostbites, but that's
somewhere else.
That's somewhere else. Yeah.
Anyways, you can put a little footnote to this.
Everybody knows they're yelling at me right now.
Yeah.
As they listen to it.
Yes.
They're yelling at both
You're
of us.
right. Yes. You're right. Yes, all of you are right. And I thought, it's over Christmas. It's Victorian. It'll be a Mark Brownell show. It'll be fine. It'll be great. And I nothing but good people involved in the show, and so it went off well, but it left me a little bit like, ugh. And then the other show I did was with Théâtre Français. It was just last spring, and I can't remember the name of the show. Don Juan. See, I was trying to think of it in English instead of French.
Okay, that'll do it.
Yeah. And it was the first... It's the first season with our new artistic director, Joël Bedos, and it was the show I was offered. And I was like, well, it's kind of like an audition, isn't it? If I don't do this, then I might never work there again. So I did it, and I love him way more than Shakespeare. He's one of my favorites. But God, that show is just about misogyny, and there's two female characters and they're victims, and it's like
so it's all the things that you didn't really want.
I wanted nothing to do with it. And there was one actor who is South American completely. So there was very little color, and these are things that I take to heart, and so I'm recommitting myself to that, and I'm just realizing that I don't enjoy them as much anymore. It's not even about being politically correct and wanting to take a stand and I'm going to sacrifice this project. It's just at the end of the day, once the show's over, I'm like, oh, I wish I'd done a show that was more satisfying, and that we'd done a show with more interesting storylines that maybe reflect the world I live in. Yeah. I think there is sort of I've heard, you're not the first person I've heard who said that they don't want to work on shows or don't want to see shows that don't have more women, people of color. These are criteria. You don't have that, not coming to see your show. And I hear that more and more. And I glance at that, whenever a season gets announced by a theater company, I'm like, okay, so what are the shows? Who are the actors? Who's directing? Who's designing? And I'm like, I mean, the one beacon of hope is Factory right now, and what Nina Leakino is doing there, and why is it so hard?
I mean, the thing that sort of gets me is you look at the cast of when I was growing up, the place I always thought that I'm going to graduate from theater school and I will go to Stratford and maybe some Shaw, and those are the things that an Ontario actor as a kid will think that's what they're going to do. And now I still think that those are some very white theaters.
Yeah.
And that they could do better.
Well, and, Stratford did The Breathing Hole this year, which is, amazing. Mm-hmm. A show with so much, Inuit representation and, not only on stage, but, the director. Mm-hmm. And so, it takes a while, and change is coming.
I feel like it takes a long time. It takes a long time,
and it takes the audience to, reward those shows by going to them, because it's like if at the end of the day, theater is also a business, and if a show loses money, then are the same risks gonna be taken? And so it's a tough one. So I think when it comes to surtitling, I'm still fresh enough to it that I'll translate anything.
Right, of course, yeah. Well, you're building up your mm-hmm. portfolio of surtitling.
Yeah, exactly. And the word is, I'm translating a show that right now it's a one-woman show written by a man, and it's mm-hmm. a man writing, kind of a young adult, or I think the character is like maybe in their early 20s, and writing her experience, and there's parts of it that I kind of go, eye roll.
Right, of course, right?
I don't agree with that.
Yeah.
But the poetry is still interesting,
mm-hmm.
and that trying to translate, and maybe there's an extra nuance in there where you're like trying to translate some man's thoughts about woman,
right?
And trying to kind of give that some added authenticity. So I don't know. There's with surtitling, I'm still, I'll try anything. I'd probably translate a cereal box if I was offered to me, right? Make it easy to steal. But when it comes to theater, because I'm in my 20th year of it now, I'm less inclined. And here's the thing. Here's the reason, is because I've got the extreme privilege of having a paying 40-hour-a-week job.
Yes.
That, I don't have to take a gig simply because it's offered to me and because I'm worried about what's going to come in the spring, or what if I don't have anything. Like, I remember those days, and that's the reality for, especially in a city like Toronto, which is so
absolutely,
damn expensive, that you just have, you have to hem all the curtains that you can. You got to, be willing to, do everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Even the, shitty paying jobs, without, voicing your concern, or else they won't hire you again. Like, it's, they're of all the designs, I think, costume design is still the one that gets paid the least.
Right.
So I do recognize my privilege in that.
Yeah.
I can be like, I'm not going to do this one because I don't like this script.
Right. I mean, yeah. I mean, that is the advantage to having the quote unquote day job. But
meanwhile, I'm working on a day job, which is doing kids shows, which are simple.
But they also serve. I mean, kids shows. I mean, in theory, they serve a purpose.
They do. I mean, they're and we have an educational mandate, and with new technology. Mm-hmm. The forefront of something, but yeah, I think there's a bit of poetry missing in it, perhaps.
Well, yeah, I guess there is.
But I'm lucky to have it, and I like my call. And unfortunately, I also work with really great people there. I think there's
that always helps.
You can do anything if you like the people.
Absolutely,
you work with.
Absolutely, you can.
Yeah.
Well, Nina, thanks so much for talking with me today. This has been a lot of fun.
It's been a lot of fun. Thanks a lot for having me.